got to see a lot of action. Now, they did not have shoulder pads on, just a helmets practice, toned down the physicality today after a big Saturday practice where they ran a lot of plays, did some tackling. Today was more of a recovery after Sunday. So Brian Kelly has got these guys on a pitch count. There's no question about it. He's not going to Les Miles 2-a-days, just running guys into the ground with 4-hour practices. Those days are long gone. You're talking about a different philosophy. And LSU has done so very healthily. Is that the word? They're healthy. And they're pretty rested, and they're getting a lot of work in. And Blake Baker talked after practice today. Here's the deal with this Blake Baker sound. I didn't go to Blake Baker today. I had to come back to the station and write the practice report, which you can read at LouisianaSports.net. And I didn't get a chance to listen to it because when I posted the practice report at LouisianaSports.net, I sat down to do a radio show. So Jacob Beck has some of this Blake Baker sound, and we're going to hear it together for the first time, and then I'm going to talk about what it is that I hear. So, Mr. Beck, I know that you're working through that sound over there currently. Is there any that you have available to toss my way at this current juncture?
Yeah, I do. I think the most interesting one, I guess, maybe to start with, somebody that you have talked about, a lot of people have talked about, though, Bernard Gooden, who's been really a force so far in camp. This is what Baker had to say about Bernard Gooden.
Bernard Gooden has been a joy in every sense of the word to coach. He is high energy. Y'all probably hear him more than anyone on the field. But in today's game, you even look in the NFL, there's not many, a lot of really, really successful defensive tackles are going to be between 280 and 305 pounds. The thing that he does really well, because he is so twitchy and has such good get off, his second foot's in the ground before the offensive lineman. So even though he might be giving up 30 pounds, he's able to get leverage and get power, and the offensive lineman doesn't have his second foot in the ground. So, one of the things that we did through the evaluation process, obviously being an undersized guy, is really evaluate him hard against the run. And we really liked what we saw, and we really, really like what we see up to this point. He's done a great job creating havoc and holding point.
So I have a lot of things to say about that. One, he's a joy for the defensive coaches to coach. I don't know that he's a joy for the offense right now because he does talk a lot. That guy is jawing and jawing and jawing. He and Garrett Nussmeier reportedly got into a little bit of a jaw off on Saturday. And there's just an edge to him. There's no doubt about it. And there's no problem with that as long as you're not getting 15-yard penalties. I don't care what you say. And he's backing it up. And one of the things that I think is important to note with Gooden, you talk about that get off, that first step, that get into the backfield, a lot of these plays that he is making are TFLs in the run game, not sacks. So he's getting sacks, but he also is getting tackles for loss in the run game. And you think about a 275-pound defensive tackle, 280-pound defensive tackle, whatever he's listed at, and you think, well, he's light in the run game. He's making plays in the run game. I agree with Blake Baker on all accounts there. I sincerely hope that we're not building up a bill of goods that Bernard Gooden can't live up to, because everybody who is listening to this radio station, who is reading practice reports, who is listening to podcasts, who is watching local news, who's paying attention to fall camp, even a little bit, has been told Bernard Gooden's name time and time and time again. And your assumption is that he's going to make 3 plays in the backfield in the Clemson game. Like that's what you're thinking right now. And I have no reason to believe that's not going to happen because we see it every day. We saw it again today. Pads, no pads, he gets back there and does it. But it is practice. It is working on LSU's offensive line. I can't be sure, but I can promise you this. We are not lying to you. He is making plays back there every single day. So that's an interesting comment from Blake Baker on Bernard Gooden, one that I echo. What else we got back there, Beck?
All right, next one. This is something else that Bernard Gooden, I'm sure, will have an effect on. But Baker was asked about stopping the run, something they struggled with pretty handedly last year.
Yep.
And how they will progress in that this season.
There's definitely some things that we're going to do different schematically to give our guys a better chance at that. Sometimes, and it's probably just something that I have to do a better job of, is understanding, how do I want to put this? I'll just leave it at that, making sure that we give them the tools necessary to stop the run, whether that be an extra hat, whatever the case may be.
Okay, that's a vanilla answer, but I have this to say about it after watching practice. If you look at what LSU was last year at defensive tackle, and you look at Ahmad Bro as a freshman, Dom McKinley as a hurt freshman, And then you got Gio Paez kind of shifting down to play. He wasn't a big impact guy at Wisconsin and had a fine year last year. And then Paris Shand having to kick down a little bit as well. And you look at that defensive tackle rotation, which was serviceable, but certainly not effective. Like that's the wrong word. Serviceable, but not dominant by any stretch of the imagination in any game. And you look at Bro and McKinley a year older, the way Gooden's playing, Guillory coming off injury but healthy. And then you consider what Pyburn has been at Florida, which is a proven 60-tackle SEC defensive lineman who can play edge and tackle. Personnel-wise, they're better. And you get Whitweeks back, who is a star at stopping the run. You get Westweeks. Devon Keys is a year older. Penn is an undrafted player who was a great team guy for you. Was he a dynamic playmaker on defense? I wouldn't go that far. So personnel-wise, you're better there. They've got to execute better and do some things differently. And I contend that they will. They've stopped the run very well in fall camp. They've given up some big plays, and Caden Durham's hit them for some big ones. But they have made more plays at and around the line of scrimmage than they have given up busts. That's for sure.
All right, next one. Speaking of more defensive line here, this is Baker speaking about Dom McKinley and how he has progressed from last year. Why he's a different player from what he was last year.
Yeah, I think he's a lot more confident. Obviously we didn't have him last spring, and it's hard. Some guys pick it up quicker, some don't. But when you haven't been here in spring and your first acclimatization is fall camp, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And he's still making strides. He's improving every single day. But I think more than anything, if you were to ask any guy, too, just year two in the scheme, he's not thinking about, what do I do on this call, what do I do on that call, which allows him to play faster and more confident. But, again, I think it's been talked about. Bruce Feldman's freak list, he was top 10 or whatever. The weight room, as much as anything, builds your confidence out there on the football field, and I think that's starting to show up.
Not only was he not an early enrollee, talking about McKinley, his first exposure was fall camp, and then he got hurt 2 weeks into fall camp and missed a bunch of time. He wasn't even available in the USC game. So you're behind some guys who enrolled early, and then you're even more behind because you don't have fall camp. And I talked about this because when you have a player come in and miss fall camp, it's just too hard to catch up because you're constantly preparing for a game. And so you can't get the reps you need. That's why when Solomon Thomas was going to miss a month starting August 1st, I'm going, he's not going to play this year. Because by the time he's ready to practice, they got to get ready to play Ole Miss. They got to get ready to play South Carolina. They're not going to give you spot reps here and there like they do in fall camp. And so it just puts you behind the eight ball like McKinley was last year. And so I have not seen as many flashes from McKinley as many have this fall. My expectation for him is not through the roof. I'm not down on the kid at all, not even a little bit. A guy with that kind of talent, that kind of ability in the weight room, that kind of frame and profile, I think he could be a star. I'm going to need to see that, and I'm anxious to do it. Hopefully that is the case. But he was behind the eight ball as a freshman. That is inarguable at this point. Got two more?
Yeah. Next one. This is Baker talking about the transfers. Obviously, one of the bigger talking points with LSU's defense. They brought in a lot of guys from the transfer portal. So this is Baker talking about how those pieces LSU brought in this offseason will fit into his defense.
Part of the job of being a defensive coordinator is obviously fitting the scheme to your players. And every coordinator has specific things that they want to have the luxury to do, right? I think when you look across the board, I think it's twofold. I think from an overall athleticism standpoint, we've upgraded, and then also from a experience standpoint. We brought in, like we've talked about 1,000 times, guys that have played a lot of football. And I'll kind of leave it at that to get into too many specifics, but I think those are the two biggest generalizations.
That, to me, is a long-form way of saying the floor is really high on this group.
Yeah.
And I've said that since camp broke. I don't think A.J. Halsey, Mansour Delane, Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, I don't think any of those guys, Tamarcus Cooley, are going to show up and just bust. These guys can't play at LSU. That just seems almost impossible. For Peyton to put up those numbers at Florida State, for Pyburn to put up those numbers at Florida, for Delane to do what he did in 2 years starting at Virginia Tech, and then some of the reps he's put on tape in fall camp. Cooley, his versatility and size. Halsey, just ridiculous productivity at 2 different stops, New Mexico and Houston. Like, LSU has had transfers over the last 3 seasons really, if I'm thinking about, that they had some accolades at other places and they came here and couldn't play. That's happened a couple times. This group, that would stun me. It would stun me. Now, whether or not AJ Halsey's going to be first team All SEC, I think he could be. Maybe not. Is Mansour Delane going to be a second round pick? He could be. Maybe not. And so that's really the volatility. You're not talking about, well, this guy cannot play. You had an all ACC corner come here 2 years ago that could not play. Couldn't play. You had a former 5-star corner from Texas A&M who came here and could not play. Could not play. And when you look at these transfers, these guys, that seems like almost an impossibility. They may not be the greatest defense in LSU history, but I'll be stunned if LSU is not in the top half of the SEC in total and scoring defense, because I think the floor is that high. Now, if they're going to go win the national championship, then they're going to need to be a dominant defense, an incredible defense, a defense that I talk about and reference in the transfer portal era the next 15 years. Remember that 2025 defense? They brought in all those pieces and nobody could score. Like, that's what they'll have to be for them to win the national championship. But the floor is just really high, and that's what he's talking about in that bite. Got one more?
Yeah, last one real quick. This is just Baker talking about DJ Pickett, just what he's seen from him so far through the camp.
DJ has grown so much from when we had him in bowl practices to spring practice to now. 10 days in, he's a freshman. There's been some days where we got to continue to work on his consistency. But the biggest improvement from spring to fall has been his physicality. He has done a really, really good job tackling this fall. In the spring, there were some moments where, and again, he's put on, 20 pounds or something like that since he's been here. So the weight room's going to build confidence from that standpoint. But I've been more impressed with his physicality so far than the coverage skills and stuff. He's always had that, and he's gotten better. Don't get me wrong, but his physicality he's turned it up a notch this fall camp.
So Baker sees a lot more Pickett tackling than I do, but I can echo the physicality in this way. When he covers and they throw jump balls or fade routes or sideline rail routes, like he is not afraid to get physical. And that, in my opinion, as I watch, is going to result in some pass interferences. But as I said at the top of the show when I was talking about the defense, I would rather a young corner get some pass interference calls because he's in position and willing to mix it up than not be in position or get beat all the time. Like, if you're Brandon Browner of the Saints and you're a free agent acquisition and you can't quit getting pass interference penalties in the NFL, well, you're no good to me at all. And I don't feel that way about those pass interferences. But a true freshman who's undersized from a frame and weight perspective going against a really good receiver core, you want to mix it up a little bit in practice, I'm good with that. Absolutely good with that. So, yeah, I'm with you on Pickett's physicality as well there, Blake Baker. And, again, I think this defense has a chance to be very good. And they got a good coordinator calling the shots there. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.